with that.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. Just finish this up. Mine's gonna look really kind of dirty. It's not clean or anything like that. It's just gonna do the bare bones, basic. Just, you know,
Get the job done.
yeah, just enough to meet the minimum requirements.
All that bare minimum.
I say use flex box for that.
Let's go through in our URLs. Got this view artist form. Comes into here. Artist form method. It renders this concerts artist form HTML, which is in here. Form. It's got a method of post. Takes in an artist name. And submit it. It takes us to this URL, this name URL concert list. It comes up to here, concert list. Then goes into the views, looks for a method called concerts list. Then it comes down to here, takes in the request. We're not passing any data into here, just the request. We're extracting data from the request, the post request, artist, assign it to a variable, creating a generate Ticketmaster URL method. Takes in an artist, comes down here, takes in the artist. Then we modify the artist input. We're replacing any spaces with the %20. Then we're returning the Ticketmaster API URL events based on what the keyword equals modified artist and our API key, Ticketmaster API, which is a global variable in our views at the moment, right here. We get that URL. Now we use the requests library to make HTTP requests. So we're making a GET request to that Ticketmaster URL, which is this thing down here, which is returned from the generate Ticketmaster URL. Passing it into here. We're assigning it to a variable of response because it's the response we're getting back. We need to manipulate that or change that into a JSON response. So we're extracting all the put it into JavaScript object notation so we can actually manipulate the data. We're assigning to a variable called data, which is a big, huge nested JSON object. So we have to actually look through here, see specifically what kind of data we want. I just extracted the very bare minimum, which was the location URL, or sorry, the latitude and longitude, which I created a variable locations and assigned it to an empty array. And I'm looping through this embedded events. I'm looping through this. Grab it from each event, going to the embedded object, all the way down here, object, going to venues, right here, which is an array, grabbing the very first index, because it has like location right here. That's the location at that very first index. Index 0 in the object, which is an object, and we're grabbing the location key, which is another object that longitude and latitude, and we're appending it to the location. So we have an array of objects of latitude and longitude. Now I'm printing the locations. We don't need that anymore. I'm returning an HTTP response, that list of concert locations, just so we can see an array of locations on the screen. So that's going on right there. Go back, say like, who else? Are you spelling Metallica? Nope. Who else?
E-T-A-L-L.
Metallic. Is that how you spell it? There you go. I'll leave it on. See, they probably don't have any. Let's just do 311. Right here. Those are an array of objects. We're just displaying to the front end right now at the moment. So let's look at, so parse through the response and grab only the data that we need. Addresses are something that can be used in Google Maps API, so that's what we just did. Now put the location data in a format that is usable in the Google Map. All right. So we have locations right here. So now we need to generate the Google Maps API. So let's come down here. So we want to pass this array of objects into location into a generate Google Maps API. So we're going to take in an array of locations. And now I want to return an array of Google Maps API. So I want to return essentially a bunch of stuff like this. Because we're going to need that data. We have to pass that off, an array of data. So an array of Google Map URLs into our template that we haven't created yet that will display Google Maps. We have locations. So I'm going to Google Maps URL assigned to an empty variable. So for location and locations, Google Maps URL append map here. And then I'm going to come into here. But I don't know if that's correct. Before I do that, before I actually do that, let's just print out each location. Print location. But we're going to have to return the Google Maps URLs, which is an array of strings of URLs. So we're not actually invoking this function yet. So maps URL equals generate Google Maps URL, Google Maps API, and we're going to pass in location. So this array of locations is going to be passed into the generate Google Maps API. APIs. Create an empty variable. It's an array. We're going to loop through that this array and extract just the latitude and longitude from that. But right now, I just want to print, see what that looks like. Go back, print. So here's what we're getting back: object, latitude, longitude, and latitude. So I just wanted location dot longitude. I'm going to refresh, go back. So here's just the longitude. So you can do location, oh shoot, location, latitude, location, longitude, and that should give us latitude and longitude. What we got here? Y Q and why is it invalid?
I have to switch to double quotes.
I'm sorry?
You might have to switch to double quotes for that whole formatted thing.
Is there, there we go. Thank you. Submit it. Just want to make sure I got the latitude and longitude in the right spot. Latitude. There. Latitude. Right here, so it says latitude and longitude. Okay, latitude is the first one. Cool, longitude is the second one. We don't want what happened to John on his production to happen to us. So returns maps URL. So maps URLs should be an array of strings. Right. It's actually maps URLs. So here we go. We got a bunch of strings with our URLs. Cool. Now what can we do? So we have pretty much all the data we need. How does a Google Maps thing work? So it takes in an iframe. Is that it? Something like this.
Yep.
All right. So instead of returning an HTTP response, we want to return something else. Return render. We need a request. Concerts. We need to do a template slash. What do I have? Concerts list. Then we have to pass in some sort of data. We haven't created that. So we already created a variable data. I don't like reuse, so I'm going to say return data equals. We always have to return an object, so artist. Let's just return the artist that we initially did, and then a Google Maps URLs, which is an array to return data. Return data. We have an object that has two keys: artist, or an artist, which is this artist that we actually created the file with, and Google Maps URLs, which is an array. Maps URL, which is an array of strings that looks like that. We're passing that in. So right now we have to create a concerts list, HTML, HTTP. So now on this, we have our data that we're passing in. Each one. We're passing artists. Got that. Here is a list of concert locations for artists. The double brackets. And then we also have for what's the name of it? Google Maps URLs. So say for URL and Google Maps URLs, we're also going to need an N4, right? I don't know. Then what do we need? Quick start. I'm going to copy this. An iframe. And our so in here, just need the URL. Okay. Find out. So we're passing this iframe. It's required. We only need to edit the source. We're passing that into. So we're passing each one of these individually into here. I'm gonna get rid of this full screen. And I don't like the way this. Sorry. So the Google Maps key is right here. So that is rendered. So I have the Google Maps API here. That's it. Right. If I refresh this, so hopefully something renders. Oh no. All right. Concert list. Template does not exist. Why not? List. Look at here, use .html.
That's
I don't like how they're all right there. So move that iframe up. I know it says grab the first 5. You guys can handle that logic. And so I pass in the artist. You can pass in other data. You can extract other data from the Ticketmaster, like the venue name, states. You're right. Like you could use the address. So you can extract the address line 1, and probably just Nevada or postal code.
what's generally preferred.
I don't think there is really. Yeah. Just whatever. I would say you can't really go wrong with latitude and longitude because Google Maps addresses are sometimes kind of, if you use like this, it could all like Google Maps might interpret it a little weird. That happened before. Where is Google Maps? You don't know. Let's quickly review the flow. So we go /artist, I'm sorry, yeah, /concerts, goes to this artist form, comes into artist form, renders this concert artist form, HTML. We have this form that as an input, we're inputting an artist name, the post request. So once you click the submit button, it takes us to this name URL, route concert list. Comes into here, grabs the concert, actually goes URL, name concert list, goes to this route, here renders, or yeah, goes to this concert list URL, looks in the view, runs this concert list method, comes into this concert list method. We take the request, grabbing a post that has an artist on it, assigning artist to a variable. Then we're going to generate the Ticketmaster URL. We're passing in the artist name, coming down here, passing the artist name. We're grabbing a modified artist. We're replacing all the spaces with %20. Then we're returning the Ticketmaster API URL with the modified artist using the keyword query. We're passing in our API, Ticketmaster API, which is a global variable in our views. So we have our Ticketmaster URL. Now we're using the requests library. We're making a GET request, passing that URL, getting a response back, returning it to a JSON response. We're assigning to data, creating an empty locations URL, empty locations array, where we're going to store the latitude and longitude locations of all the concerts. We're looping through that data where that location data exists. We're appending the latitude and longitude of events to locations. It's an object that has 2 keys, latitude and longitude, with value. So we have an array of objects of latitude and longitude up here. And then we have to generate a maps URL, Google Maps API URL. So we're passing locations, just generate Google Maps APIs. Coming down here, again, we're creating an empty array, Google Maps URL. We're moving through that locations array, and we're appending what is needed to generate a Google Maps. A Google Map. We're passing the Google Maps API as unique from me. We're passing in the latitude and longitude. Remember, the locations are an array of objects with a latitude key and a longitude key. We're creating an array of just strings. So it looks something like this. We're returning that. So that's what this value is, this maps URL. Now, in order to pass in all the data we need into our template, it has to be an object. So we have return data. We want to pass in an object with an artist. So we're going to use the artist, and then Google Maps URLs, which is an array of strings. We're passing, rendering all that data into the concert list template. So here, concert list. Here's a list of concert locations for artists, which is this artist value. And for URL, Google Maps URLs. So for URL, Google Maps URLs, which is an array. We're looping through that array, and we're rendering an iframe with that string URL passing to the source attribute for the Google Maps embed API. We're rendering everything out to the screen right here. So this is where it's looping through and rendering each Maps API. Change this to like 1,000. Yes.
So I was curious with the API keys, like what's like best practice for storing those? Would those be like in a settings thing? Would we store those on our database? Like where would those?
You can store them on the server side. I'm not 100% there is. So I wanted to store, see if I remember how to do this.
You wouldn't just leave them in your controller like that, right?
Put them in the settings. And then you can, and how would I have
Yes.
comment that out? You can import. Where did I do this? It's import. So from Django.com, import settings, and you can do like you can actually like print settings dot print settings dot Google Apps API. Probably gonna throw an error. Master. Oh. Where's my Ticketmaster guide? So if I do settings, maybe I think this might be it. I can't remember. But yeah, it'd be like. Does it say it?
Yeah,
Oh, right here. So there's my. You want to like keep that on the server. So, but these are all public APIs. You're gonna see them like regardless. So like the Google Maps, you can just be like set API. Look like. iframe. Will you show it? Oh. That's not. You said it was. It's gotta be up here somewhere. Right?
Oh, okay.
So you can see the API. But this is a public API. This is a client-facing API for maps.